for your willingness to serve on undergraduate student government. I know that all of you have very busy lives, you've got classes, many of you work, you've got a lot of different things going on, and the fact that you commit your time and your energy to helping us become a better institution through your service on undergraduate student government is really meaningful to me. I also have to say that when I go to the Senate meetings, which is technically a Senate of faculty, staff, and students, but it's mostly faculty who show up for it, they're not nearly as well dressed as all of you are, so I think I'm feeling like I need to step up my game in your presence. I really appreciate that. These are challenging times for higher education, and I'm sure many of you, you're not just reading about it in the newspaper, you're feeling it in your heart, you're feeling it in your brain, you're feeling it in some of the vibration that's going on around campus. So we have, as we've thought about how to deal with all of these changes, we took a very deliberate approach. So Nathan mentioned the fact that I do work in geospatial health informatics. I'm a data scientist. So think about that. What happens when you have a data scientist who's the chancellor? Well, the day after the election, we did I did an artificial intelligence analysis of Project 2025, the America First Policy Institute's policy papers, and President-elect at that time, and now President Trump's speeches to see what would be the most likely policy proposals in the first year of the second Trump administration. I refined that artificial intelligence analysis to say, well, which of these things would have an impact on either higher education or healthcare. I'm sure many of you are aware that we have a very significant healthcare operation here at UIC. Got all of this analysis out and looked at what the potential policy proposals might be, and sort of sorted those into 8 topical categories, and then charged 8 working groups to sort of come up with, for each of the topics that were within their category, what was sort of the worst outcome, the worst possible proposal for higher education or healthcare, the middle, and the least worst. And then what would we do in each of those situations? And what this meant was that for anything that might happen, we'd have a little bit of a roadmap. Like, so the first time a policy proposal comes out, it's not the first time we've thought about, well, how are we going to react to that? So all of those 8 working groups, and I do want to say that we did not include students on those working groups, not because we didn't think it was important to get student perspective on those working groups, but because it was a huge amount of work. Think about when the election was. It was a huge amount of work right as y'all were gearing up for finals, and I just didn't want to ask anybody in that situation, either at the graduate level or the undergraduate level, to commit that amount of time. Nevertheless, we try to get student input as we came up with plans, and have tried to react to things that have happened. So we then appointed, so all those reports were due in before the December holidays, and then after the December holidays, we started with an implementation team. The idea behind the implementation team is that they're supposed to be watching everything that's coming out of DC, and as we get things coming out of DC, there's so what do we do, right? And I'm really so proud of the people who did all this work, because there's actually only been one thing that's happened that we didn't predict as a potential policy proposal in the first year of the second Trump administration, which meant that we had a little bit of a plan to start off with. Of course, there were all the specifics that you needed to adjust, plans around, etc. But it did feel good to, not be constantly on your back heel. That we were leaning into these problems, So my hope is that what happens is that we have this implementation team that goes down a rabbit hole every day. Like, all these things that are happening, go right down the rabbit hole, figure out what's going on, and people can feel confident that there's this rabbit hole team, right? And therefore, most people can stay focused on moving their research or their classes that they're teaching or the classes that they're taking, or their engagement with the community or their clinical care can focus on advancing UIC's mission. And I think there's a lot of evidence that that is actually happening. So if you look at some metrics that we might care about at UIC, our applications went up by 19%, our enrollment went up by 6%. Our retention rates, which is so important to me, not just that we get students here, but we keep them here and we get them all the way to graduation and placed into a good job. Our retention rates are up. Our research funding is up. I don't know like how our faculty, I just am so amazed and impressed with our faculty that in the midst of everything that was going on, they still managed to put in really, really high quality proposals that led to an increase in our funding. So the metrics are all moving in the right direction and we're happy about that. You may be, for those of you who were on student government last year, I talked about the 5 strategic priorities that we laid out in my first year here as chancellor. So this is my 3rd year as chancellor. We have 5 strategic priorities. One is student success, one is expanding our research profile, the 3rd is engaging with our home community here in Chicago, the 4th is partnering with business and nonprofits, and the 5th is to recruit and retain world-class faculty and staff, making this a great place to work. So I'm happy to talk in detail about any of those priorities, but to be clear, I named student success first because student success is our top priority here at UIC. And we're not just sort of like generically talking about student success. We have some pretty clear ideas about how we move student success forward. I have a 1-pager here that talks a little bit about what we're trying to do around student success. We have an ambitious goal of increasing our graduation rate by 10 percentage points over a decade. We're in the 2nd year of that decade right now. We've identified what we refer to as 8 essential elements for student success. So those are the things on in the left-hand column. Those are all research-based. Some of that research was done at UIC. Some of that research was done at other institutions. I actually was part of doing some of the research. These kinds of issues have been important to me throughout my career. So we have these 8 essential elements for student success. We don't want to have 8 silos of like, here's where we're working on advising and here's where we're working on teaching and learning innovation. We actually want to be addressing those 8 essential elements across multiple, with programs across multiple of them, and programs that can operate at scale, right? It's one thing to have a program that works for 25 students, we need programs that can work for 25,000 students, right? So figuring out how to do things at scale, which requires you to try something, revise it, try it again, scale it up by 1 order of magnitude, try it again, scale it up by another order of magnitude. So you have to be very deliberate and stay with these processes for some time. On the right-hand side, you'll see a list of programs that we're trying to get started, and the little gray circles underneath that actually correspond to the 8 essential elements on the left-hand side. So they're kind of mapped back and forth to each other, and I'm happy to talk about any of these programs. I don't want to talk for too long though, because I'd much rather hear all of you talk. So you are no doubt aware that UIC has a unique student body. 56% of our students are Pell eligible, and more than half are first gen. We rolled out this year UIC Aspire, which is a financial aid program that provides free tuition and fees to anybody who comes from a family that brings in less than $75,000 a year. We are also working with donors to support UIC Aspire being able to continue that despite some of the threats from Washington, D.C. We remain committed to it. We're not planning on changing that anytime in the near future, but we are working philanthropically to get additional support for scholarships and programs that can help students succeed here. So we're also working very closely with Chicago Public Schools. Are any of you a product of the Chicago Public Schools? All right, so we work very closely with Chicago Public Schools, and we also work very closely with city colleges of Chicago. Are any of you transfer students from city colleges? Right. Okay, so we want to make sure that whether you come from CPS or any other school and come directly, or any other school district and come directly to UIC, or if you come to us through city colleges that you have, or other community colleges, that you have a good experience here. So we try to be deliberate in providing meaningful orientation for our transfer students, and really strong advising and other kinds of engagements with our transfer students as well. We want all of those transitions, whether for our first year full-time students or for our transfer students, we want that transition to life on campus to be smooth and seamless. And we're building a bunch of tools. I'm happy to talk about those tools as well, that we believe will help all students to succeed here. We are nationally recognized at UIC for social mobility. So we are currently ranked #1 in Illinois and #9 nationally on social mobility. So there are multiple thousands of colleges and universities across the country, and we are ranked #9 for social mobility. And the Carnegie Foundation recently designated us as an opportunity university, which means that we are really good at both providing higher access and providing higher earnings after graduation. So many universities talk about getting students to and through college. We try to talk about getting students to and through college and placed into a good job. That component of placement into a good job is very important to us. I imagine that placement into a good job is very important to all of you as well. I know that we're all here to learn and expand our minds and learn to think critically, and I think all of those things are important. But I also want you to lead good lives that allow you to do the kinds of things you want, either in your work or in your leisure time, that make you feel fulfilled and happy and have a life of purpose. So there are a lot of changes going on in the workplace as well, right? So, can you go a day without talking about AI? The answer is no. But at least AI is not the front page of the newspaper every day. But people talk about it all the time. So how many of you use AI on a regular basis? Yeah, so it's great. Last year when I came, I asked how many people use AI on a regular basis, and everybody was like, she wanted to know. And then I said, well, I use AI almost every day. So how many of you use AI on a regular basis? And everybody's hands went up, right? So, in some ways, some of our students are leading the way on how to think creatively about using these new technologies to change the way that they, change the way that they learn, and change the way that we do our work here at the university. So we want to make sure, one of our goals is to make sure that every student who graduates from UIC is AI literate. You don't have to be the person who's writing new AI tools, but you do need to be someone who knows how to deploy AI tools effectively. So we want people to understand what is AI, how does it work, how can you use it to be more productive, and third, and very importantly, what are the ethical questions that go along with using AI as well? So we're working to ensure that there's a pathway for all students to get that kind of exposure. So we're also focusing a lot of attention on career preparation. So we're trying to roll out some new programs around making sure people know how to interview effectively, people know how to, what are the kinds of questions that are going to be asked, et cetera. And it was very interesting. I had these faculty members who applied for a big grant round from a foundation, and they made a semifinal round, and in the semifinal round there was going to be a Zoom-based interview, and I said to them, so you need to practice, and they were like, what? And I said, yeah, you need to practice. You need to find some people, like, here's the kinds of questions I think the foundation is going to ask you. You need to find like 3 or 4 people to do a mock interview with you and practice, because you need concise, on-point responses to whatever they're going to say, because they're going to narrow it down from the 12 to 3, and you want to be in the 3, and you don't want to miss being in the 3 because you didn't take the time to practice your responses, etc. And so they practiced it, and afterwards and then they did their actual interview, and afterwards told me, like, yeah, practicing, that was a good idea. So, there are similar things about practicing for job interviews, or whether if you're interviewing for graduate school, etc. We want to make sure our students are well prepared. We're also trying to build partnerships with employers all over Chicagoland and across the state. We have some nice new partnerships with Argonne National Laboratories, with Amazon. We place a lot of people into Chicago Public Schools from our College of Education and other places. We have a burgeoning relationship with J.P. Morgan, with Rush, with United Airlines, the Chicago Transit Authority. There are more UIC grads working at ComEd than from any other university in the country. So it helps that the Chief Operating Officer, David Perez, is a graduate of UIC, so he really believes in us. That's great. But we're trying to build all of these relationships because we believe they provide opportunities for shadowing, for mentoring, for internships, for career training, and hopefully job opportunities as well down the road. What we find is that once employers get exposure to our students, they don't necessarily think first, let me go to UIC and I am on a mission to change that. Think first of UIC. But once they have experience with one of our interns, then they come back on a regular basis. So all of you are the best ambassadors for all of your fellow students who are out there. Our research profile also offers a tremendous opportunity for students. We bring in about $500 million in research funding every year, which means that we have faculty who are doing incredible work, many of whom delight in working with undergraduate students. I know sometimes we think about research as being the purview of graduate students and postdocs, but I myself maintain a research program, and I still have undergraduates working in my research laboratory. I met with both of my undergraduates earlier today. So think about that as another opportunity to develop your professional skills as well. So the last thing I'll talk about is community engagement and civic impact. So we try to do a lot of community engaged learning. That gives all of you an opportunity to apply what you learn in real world settings all over Chicago's neighborhood. Some of you may have worked at our neighborhood centers. We have one in North Lawndale and one in Auburn Gresham. I'm really pleased with putting this back here. We are taking, the Board of Trustees is going to be on the Chicago having your meeting next week. It's Chicago's chance to host it, and we're taking the entire Board of Trustees down to the Greater Auburn Gresham Development Corporation's Healthy Lifestyle Hub in Auburn Gresham. So I think there are a lot of trustees who have never been in Auburn Gresham. We have many students from Auburn Gresham. We have many partnerships there. So I am, through force of will, if we're getting the Board of Trustees there. Quinn is going to be part of that. I love that I throw this statistic around wherever I go. Last year, UIC students volunteered more than 13,000 hours through student leadership and civic engagement programs, and that's just the ones where we track it, right? Because I know lots of you are volunteering your time in things that are not part of something that we specifically track, and I feel so much pride that given everything that y'all have going on in your lives, you still find the time to be meaningful members of the communities from which we all come. So I'll close by saying, UIC is enjoying great momentum. We're getting better known for sure in this city. People recognize, they are learning more and more about what UIC is doing. I spend a lot of time talking to businesses, government sector, nonprofits, et cetera, about what we have going on here. UIC is certainly getting better known in this city. It is also getting better known across the country. And the reason that you should care about that is that every time UIC gets better known in a positive way, it increases the value of your degree. It opens more doors for you. It makes it more likely that someone will take a meeting with you, et cetera. And that's what I want. To make sure that our students get access to all the many opportunities I believe that they deserve. So I think the university is enjoying great momentum. I think that great momentum is due to the incredible work being done by our students, by our staff, and by our faculty. And I consider it, I am grateful on a daily basis for the opportunity to serve as chancellor here at UIC. And with that, I'll stop and see what you would like to talk to me about. And I need a pen so I can write down. This is like.
See, that's a struggle we all deal with, Chancellor.
Yeah.
But any questions for the Chancellor, just feel free to raise your hand, and then either myself or the Chancellor will call on you. But Sarah, do you want to start us off?
Yes. Hi, my name is Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
I'm a representative on the Public Affairs Committee. I've been a part of this.
You were on student government last year, right?
Yes,
We met last year.
I was. So I just had a question about what you started out talking about how the policies that are coming out of DC are affecting, like, obviously you made a plan, and I just wanted to ask if there's anything we can do, because I know you said at the time that we were going through finals, you didn't really want to involve students, but obviously there's still 3 years left of this presidency, and we don't know what's going to happen, and so I was just wondering if there's anything we can do as leaders, or anybody can do on campus to try and help out with minimizing the effects of what comes out.
So I would say, so thank you for that question, Sarah. It's good to see you again. I would say two things. First of all, if, within undergraduate student government, so there are many things coming out of Washington, D.C. In my role, I have to think about which are the ones that have the biggest impact on healthcare and higher education. And so I'll use an example, tariffs. They have an impact on higher education and healthcare because it could increase prices on a number of things. Certainly in the healthcare sector, the various conversation about tariffs on pharmaceuticals, we think about that. But tariffs are not at the top of my list of things that I worry about. At the top of my list are about changes to financial aid, changes to research funding, changes to immigration policy, etc. So it would be, but that comes out of, my assessment of the situation, my conversation with deans, cabinet members, faculty, etc. It would be very helpful if you feel that there are particular issues, things that are coming out of Washington, D.C. policies that are of particular concern to the student body for me to hear about that. The other thing is it would be very helpful. I mean, I love coming to student government. I'm like this terrible person who, in the elevator, I talk to people. Let's talk to you on the elevator, and yet I do it. I make them take out their earbuds. Wait, can you hear me? You should take out your earbuds so you can hear me. What were you listening to? I love to talk to students. I try to, go to any of the student events that I'm invited to, etc. But I don't have the same. I don't have the same ability to have, candid conversations with a lot of people, right? About what are you worried about? What's, and what are you happy about? What are you excited about, right? So right now, we seem to be singularly focused on like the challenges, but there are great opportunities right now. So I'd be very interested to hear, from a student's perspective, what are the things that you think are the biggest challenges for undergraduate students generally and here at UIC, and what do you think are the opportunities that we need to make sure we don't pass up? So to the extent that there's a way for the student government to organize around those questions, I would love to get the input. And I promise to give a shorter answer to whatever the next question is.
Hi there, I'm Qasim Simba. I'm the Director of Public Affairs. I just wanted to say being a Chancellor is such a high honor. My question for you is, what makes you a great leader? And how are you affected at your job?
Well, I don't know whether I'm a great leader. That's for other people to decide. I think that, I never thought about, oh, I want to be a chancellor one day. It's always been about what's the work that I want to do. And, my decision to come to UIC was very much about the work that I want to do. So, all of you have 50 years of career in front of you. I don't have 50 years of career in front of me. I have 10 to 15 years. And when you get to that point in the runway, like every day is gonna matter. If you're gonna work really hard, it better be for something that really matters to you. And my decision to come to UIC was really around the fact that I wanted to be able to spend most of my time, not some of it, most of my time working around ensuring that people from all backgrounds had an opportunity in higher education, and working in a setting where our clinics focused on delivering world-class care to everyone, and not just to people who have private insurance and a lot of wealth. We do. The other day I was at the ophthalmologist, and I had a Fortune 500 CEO on this side and somebody who was unhoused on that side, and I knew, well, all three of us were going to get world-class care here because, UIC provides excellent health care. So I just wanted to be able to spend my time working on questions that were deeply important to me. And, this is, nobody's recommended time to become a president or a chancellor at a university. And I kind of, everybody's like, oh, it's a terrible job. And I'm like, well, it's not. It's not. It's a great job. It's a great job because you get to work on things that are important. It's a great job because if we don't have good leadership now, then, all is lost for higher education. If we don't have people who are willing to do the job when it's hard, how hard is it to be a good leader when it's easy? Like we need people who are willing to do the job when it's hard. Like every day, I get to work with students like you. I get to work with our amazing faculty. I get to work with our staff who know more about everything here at UIC than anyone does, and that's pretty cool. So I always say that I have the best job in Chicago and the best job in higher education. I love this place.
That's amazing. I love your passion.
Thank you.
Another question?
So my name is Michael Kim. I'm the president for the Diversity and Inclusion Committee. My question is about diversity specifically, and coming here to UIC, one of the greatest things I experienced here was embracing and learning about being such a diverse community, people from all backgrounds, race, culture, socioeconomic status. Going back on the political theme, not too much onto it, but understanding that the current administration's current attitude towards DEI and in terms of their negative connotation with it. I was just wondering, because I know that, I'm assuming through your guys' implementation team about how to address certain issues with administration, I feel like the DEI, especially with internships and, focusing on people who are underrepresented, how do you guys plan on addressing if the current sentiment of the administration is negative towards DEI, and how do we plan on keeping that a powerful aspect of USC?
Mm-hmm. Well, current sentiment of the administration is negative.
Yeah.
Without question,
Yeah.
right? That's not like, oh, I wonder what it's going to be about at this point. It's patently obvious what they, the attitude of the current administration toward that. So one of the things that I've been saying to people on a regular basis is we can't let the words get in the way of the work. So the mission statement that we formulated in my first year here, so it used to be the case that the mission statement was on the USC website. It was this long. It was like 5 paragraphs long. So many words. And if you talk to people all around campus, what was our mission? They all talked about it in similar ways, but nobody used the same words, and they talked for a really long time. And one of my, which maybe can work internally, but I would argue it doesn't even work that well internally, but sure doesn't work when you go externally and you're trying to talk about this great university and these great students that we have externally. So we have a one-sentence mission statement. UIC's mission is to provide the broadest access to the highest levels of educational research and clinical care. Access and excellence. Notice there is no use of the word diversity, equity, or inclusion in there, but if you think about how do you achieve a mission, which is all about access and excellence, you have to make sure that you bring everybody along. And you have to figure out how do you, in the face of whatever legal changes or legal challenges might occur, you have to figure out how do we continue to do the work. So there's some, a scholarship that is specifically for women in engineering, or a scholarship that's specifically for blacks or Latinos in STEM fields, whatever the case might be. If you look at the total amount of funding we have for that, which is actually quite small, and then you look at what happens with UIC Aspire. So across the undergraduate student body, UIC Aspire is 52% of students are eligible for UIC Aspire. So it's not 52% who are on UIC Aspire, because some people have other scholarships that cover everything, so we don't fund them for UIC Aspire. But 52% are eligible for UIC Aspire. Amongst black students, it's 62%. Amongst Latino students, it's 70%. So UIC Aspire does much more for ensuring that people from underrepresented minorities are able to come to UIC than any individual scholarship that is for, a handful of students, based on various characteristics. So we have to, and here's a place this actually speaks to Sarah's question as well. We have to bring our best creativity to this, right? We can't sort of, it was a free and fair election, and he's the president of the United States, and there are many people who are happy that he's the president of the United States, and we live in a democracy, and we have to deal with the fact that, things that might not be to our taste are happening in this country. Well, we have to be creative. We can't either just argue it shouldn't be that way, or roll over and say, well, I guess it is that way, so I'm going to give up. We have to be the people who are really, really creative and figure out what are some things that we can be doing that are technically within the letter of the law, but allow us to continue the spirit of our mission. So that is another place where if students and student government in particular put their creativity into, well, what are some of the ideas of how we could move these things forward, where you're not using specific criteria, or I don't know. I'll stop. You know what I'm trying to say. Now I'm in the stage where when people like answer a question and then they answer it the second time and then they answer it in the exact same third time. I was starting on my second. I'm like, no, okay, I'm done.
My question might have been kind of
No. So think about we didn't achieve what we did in the civil rights movement because people simply said it's not right. People did say it's not right, but they had strategies, right? And and we also have to figure out what are the strategies that work today. So I don't think it's a good strategy for me, you may differ, for me to get up and start shouting, whether that's through opinion pieces, etc., about how what's going on right now and why I have problems with it. I think it's a good idea for me to work with all the other universities in the President's Alliance, which is focused on providing good opportunities for international students and undocumented students. I think it's a good idea for me to work in partnership with them. I feel so proud that we hosted the President's Alliance is convening on our campus and did not pay any attention to people who said, well, isn't that politically dangerous? You have to pick the things, and I think you pick things that are very important, that have the potential to have a lot of impact, and you try to do those things in collaboration with lots of other organizations. So.
Jacob?
I have a question that's sort of,
Can you just speak up? I'm sorry.
I have a question that's sort of related to that. I know with the ongoing situation with ICE as well as other various things in the Chicago area, I know that a lot of people aren't, I guess, as aware of, the fact that they have these kind of rights. For example, something I can think about is you mentioned the civil rights, like the 13th Amendment allows slavery for imprisoned people, which is sort of how the correctional system is nowadays. But I guess I was wondering how UIC could protect the students that might not be as aware of these rights of their own, I guess.
So we work very closely with an organization called ICER, and I can never remember what ICER stands for, so.
It's the Illinois Coalition of Immigrant Refugee Rights.
Thank you. So it's weird, right, because it's ICE and ICER, but ICER is this organization that does all this work to educate people and also come up with policy proposals, et cetera. So we work very closely with ICER. They have a series of Know Your Rights workshops. We leverage those, instead of designing our own Know Your Rights workshops, we leverage the existing Know Your Rights workshops, and we push those out very deliberately to members of our community. And those workshops were available not just to the members of our community, but to anybody in their family also. Because with our students, even some of our students are undocumented. A larger number of our students have members of their families who are not documented, right? So we pushed all of that out. We also have this amazing woman named Tanya Cabrera, who is working one-on-one and in groups with students who are worried about their situation, trying to figure out what their options are, et cetera. So we have a whole center at UIC that's focused on that. And the woman who runs it, Tanya Cabrera, if you ever meet her, just thank her. She has been doing really good, really hard work over the past 10 months. So I actually think our community members who are more vulnerable to ICE are reasonably well, like when I talk with them, I think they're reasonably well educated on what their rights are. We should have a broader number of people who themselves are not at risk, but should make the effort to understand, what the rights are for people across the community. So that stop there.
Last question then?
There's a couple over here.
Okay. Last two or three. Cameron?
Good to see you, Chancellor.
Good to see you.
I'm Cameron, Director of Campus Life for USG. My question to you is, I know there was a letter sent to you by Congress, and Dr. Roosevelt, I think it was particularly addressed to the West Campus, nonetheless.
Just the College of Medicine, not
College of
Roosevelt.
Medicine. How does pressure like that from the federal government affect your decision making, if at all? And how did UIC respond to that?
Okay. Does everybody know about this letter? Do you want me to give you the quick? Okay. So you know about these presidents who have had to go testify before a congressional committee, right? So that committee, sometimes they ask you to come and testify, and sometimes they send letters to you. Sometimes they send letters and then ask you to testify. So we received a letter from this congressional committee questioning some things that happened in our College of Medicine that were labeled by the committee as potentially anti-Semitic. At this point, what they've done is asked us to do document production around those particular situations. So, like, okay, this happened, send us all of the emails related to this, send us all of the, written documents that had anything to do with these events. We have external counsel who we're working with. We are doing what's referred to as rolling document production, so like going through each of these things and say, okay, let's put together all the documents we need to send. So we've been doing that. To date, we haven't gotten any questions on the documents that we've sent to the congressional committee. I don't know if that's because there's really no gotcha moments to be had in the documents that we're producing, or they're busy with the government shutdown. I don't know, but we have not gotten any questions. As for how it affects my decision making as chancellor, I would say that it makes me aware of the importance of being highly engaged with different constituencies and stakeholders, so that they have the opportunity to understand what UIC is and what we do, not simply filtered through what newspapers write about this particular letter. So I think it places an additional pressure on me to do that kind of engagement. I think that engagement is a good thing for UIC regardless, so it's not that's the type of stuff where I don't feel like I'm wasting my time doing this. I wish I could be doing that. It's good for UIC for me to be doing that. It puts a little, I spend a little bit more time coaching people about how to think about the legal components to things that we engage with. I spend a little bit more time talking to our Office of General Counsel. But in terms of my decisions about what we want to do here at the university, I don't think about that when I go to make a decision. I don't think about that letter. So it takes up some time. Some of that time is, that's a good thing for me to be doing for UIC anyway. Some of that time I, maybe wouldn't have had to spend, but it is a professional development opportunity for people to learn more about sort of the legal setting. Early in my career, I had to learn a lot about the legal setting for universities, because I did research that made people want to sue the university. So I did research on housing and how it posed risk to children. And landlords wanted to sue the university all the time because we were pointing out this risk, and because it's geospatial health informatics, it wasn't like, generally, housing like this is problematic. It was research that said, well, this house and this house and this house and this house are, like every tax parcel in every county we worked on was classified, and so landlords tend to own a lot of, you have landlords who own many properties, and so they didn't like that we were pointing out these risks. So I had to learn a lot about like how to work well with legal counsel early on, and that's been helpful to me, and that's so.
Hi, my name is Olivia, and I am the Director of Legislative Affairs. It's great to hear from you, and especially about your initiatives like the Success Headquarters, Aspire program, and undergraduate research hub, things that are coming up in the next few years. My question is curious, as students, how can we make sure to stay on top of the information being provided for all of these initiatives, and then also go on to take advantage of it and not necessarily like miss it or like stay in the loop with it?
Okay. Well, I would turn that question back around to you and ask you what are the best ways for us to do that kind of engagement. You know, when I send an email, I would just like to say, thank you, students. You have the highest click rate of, you know, students, staff, and then faculty. But even student click rate is right around 50%, depending upon what the data is, et cetera. So, you know, I'm aware that simply sending an email doesn't mean that everybody knows about things. So your ideas about how to get the word out, how to engage students more effectively, I would welcome that. And I think we're in a particular like transitional moment in communication. Like I get social media and the like snappiness of, you know, short videos on TikTok and, you know, not that I have a TikTok account or an Insta or a Finsta or, you know, any of those other things. I'm on LinkedIn. I'll connect with all of you on LinkedIn if you would like. So, you know, it's not clear because there's so much noise in everybody's lives. It's not clear how you get that communication going back and forth. So, I mean, I said earlier about how I talk to everybody in the elevators and it drives them crazy. And remember, I live for the most part of you in a 28th floor office tower. So like you're in the elevator for a long time with me when I'm talking to you. I also joke around about I would like to sponsor this, and I would love undergraduate student government to get excited about it. To have a day where we just all say we're not going to wear our earbuds, we're not going to look at our phone, we're going to walk across campus, we're going to say hello to each other, we're going to learn something, we're going to, you know, make one new friend, and, you know, we're not going to think the chancellor is weird when she walks up and says, what's going on? Tell me about you. So I'm on a bit of a digression, just wanted to throw that idea out there. But, you know, your ideas about how to cut through the incredible noise that's around all of us, you know, how many emails a day do you get, I mean, it used to be like, okay, if you really need to get to someone and they're not responding to an email, you send a text, and now, like, I get so many text messages all the time, and, you know, and, like, figuring out how to, and it's not just our getting information to you, it's y'all getting information to us. Figuring out the most effective ways to do that, I would welcome the insights from all of you, and I would guess that you are much better positioned to have the creative ideas about what's going to work with, you know, with the student body here.
And kind of as a response to that, what I will do is I will kind of compile the questions the chancellor asked you guys and send out a form, and I'll compile that data, chancellor's favorite word, data, and get that back to the chancellor so that she can also take a look at what all of you are collectively thinking. But Sarah, last question.
Yes, hi again. So I really liked your comment on AI and being literate in AI for all students. That was actually something that you and I discussed last time you were here. So I just wanted to ask if there was anything to like implement into like, I know student success is like such a big thing, and like being literate in AI, if you combine those two. And if there's like any ideas such as like classes for AI, or like a freshman seminar or senior seminar, like being able to apply that to classes and professional life before they get to their classes or before they get to their professional career path, and being able to apply it to all of the essential elements for student success. Like, what are your plans for that?
So first of all, if you send me an email, I will introduce you to the person to the people who are leading this effort. Secondly, we're piloting a class right now in computer science, which is kind of like an AI data science 101 sort of course, and it's intentionally not, even though it's in the computer science department, it's intentionally not for, specifically for computer science majors. So they have people from, LAS, engineering, and the business school in it. So we're running that as a pilot. We're seeing how the students are doing. The LAS students are outperforming the business school students and the engineers. I mean, you from LAS, I'm sure, are happy to hear that. And that's a class that has 40 people in it, right? So that's good. We're figuring out how to do it for 40 people. Now we got to figure out, well, how do we scale that? And how do we do a combination of, can we do some of it being virtual training and then some of it being in person, those sorts of things. So we have that going on. And then we have a whole evaluation of how do we think about building. So you could say, well, we're gonna require everybody to take this course, and this is how you get to the AI literacy. I actually think that if you offer a course and it's good, it's well planned, it's well orchestrated, it's well implemented, that people will just take it because, and if it's taught well, right? And leverages modern teaching approaches, some sort of online modules that you're doing in combination with maybe some team-based projects, etc. But if you did that, you wouldn't have to make it a requirement. You would have a huge proportion of the student body that takes it. And so we have an initiative going on right now trying to determine, well, what would that look like, and who might we partner with? And we're talking to both Microsoft and Google to help us figure out how to scale things. And luckily, both Microsoft and Google have major offices in Chicago.
Okay.
So I would just like to say that today, very important day, today is the birthday of our provost, who you all know and love, but it is also the birthday of my granddaughter, who turned 1 year old today. So right before I walked in here, I was not Zooming, FaceTiming with my granddaughter, which is why I walked in here with a big old smile on my face. But I would have ended up with a big old smile on my face, having had the opportunity to spend time with them.
Well, thank you, Chancellor Miranda, for coming. We really do appreciate it. So can we have a huge round of applause?
I would otherwise stay, except we have a basketball game this evening, so I'm going to go spend time with some other students. And I hope that all of you, when your meeting is over, will come over to credit me and enjoy the rest of the game.
And after she asked, I was like, I wanted to send her. The staff is actually really good. It's really come back to that. I was like, nope. And I was like, myself. Yeah.
I'm sorry, wait for me to come back.
Um,
Oh, yeah, I'll wait till I come back.